So a little size comparison. We all know how big that is. Here is the Orlandoo. So it is like exactly the same wheelbase, just a lot narrower, which is actually pretty realistic for how trophy trucks are versus short course trucks. Trophy trucks are typically more narrow than the short course counterpart. Yeah, I don't know how the ride height will be. Might be a little taller, but dude, look at this cage. So it's 3D printed, but it's such a nice print. Like, it does not have any of that layer texture that is typical of 3D prints. But just like, look at the detail, man. So this is like the battery compartment. This is the spare tire carrier. The hinge pins for the front suspension arms are already in there. But yeah, I just like this is gonna be insane. But I already love it just based off of like the roll cage. Like, it is so cool, so detailed. I'm gonna have a fucking stroke, dude. Look at this shit. We know what that is. Here's the servo. A teeny tiny little guy. Literally like fucking the motor and transmission. USB charger, hey, pretty nice. Look at these screws. These are like the main screws. This is the largest packet of screws. And there's one of them. Pinky for scale. It's literally dust. Like, if I exhale too loud, they're gone. Like, this is the nut driver they give you. That's the wheel nut size. I ordered this as an extra. It's a little pin vise. So it's like a little collet that I can use to hold like the shock shafts and shit. This dashboard. Like, they did not have to go this hard. Got cup holders. Pretty nice. And then like, look at like the fire extinguisher. Like nozzles. Like, my hands are sweating just thinking about it. I haven't even done anything yet. I'm just looking at stuff. A little sand ladder. This is kind of cool. It's like the photo etched metal. So you got like a little diamond plate piece, grill for the fan, this fan part. It's like surprisingly heavy. And then all these skin panels for the cage. The instructions, like, honestly, like they look pretty good. But like, even just building the fan box, like glue, glue. Fucking hate glue. I'm excited to see the cage once I get the skin on it. It's got the, oh yeah, the sway bars. Sway bars are cool. They already have the little metal piece in it, but it's just like the UDR where it's got those like lever arms. The little shock springs. Tiny little shock springs and shock shafts. The little ball studs. Ball ends, whatever you call them. Where did, I got the optional light bar. Look at the wires, dude. I have to solder this. I have to solder those wires. It's like a human hair thickness. But it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. So for as crappy as this brand can be at times, their stuff is also kind of like nice. So this is the electronics package. Like a nice little plastic insert here. It's almost like the felted stuff. So it's what we've got. So this is just like the basic transmitter and receiver, but it comes with these micro LEDs that you can solder up, a little control board for it, because you can get like headlights, turn signals, brake lights, reverse lights, all that. There's a little power switch for the ESC. And you guessed it, there is an onboard speaker with some preset sound effects. It's a tiny little, it's like the TRX4M where the ESC is combined with the receiver, so it's like an all-in-one. It's 2.4 gigahertz, but everything plugs right into there. Got a little shorty antenna. But then I'm impressed with this transmitter. So it's like the FMS transmitter where you got a channel 3 switch, a toggle button for the lights, and this has a freaking display. So you can actually do all the programming on this display. I think it gives you like the transmitter battery voltage and stuff like that. Runs on 4 AA's like everything else, but like all things considered, dude, like it's not a bad deal. And check it out. It's very bouncy right now because it needs more weight, but she is all together. Just needs accessories and to tidy up all the electronics. But there's a chance I might have it like more or less finished tomorrow. It looks so fucking cool. It's got the front and rear sway bars. Yeah, you can kind of see it going. 2-wheel drive. This thing has been a bitch, dude. I had to sand the drive shaft coupler to get it to fit. I had to cut the cage and then squeeze it back together and super glue it to get the floor pan to line up. Just a bunch of other stupid shit. But by golly, it is cool. This soldering is crazy. This is the second one I've done. Let's see if we can get it to focus. I somehow did a good job. Like, that's actually pretty clean. And all these little LEDs are not, like, they're kind of labeled with the color. So I've just been soldering each one up and test firing them to see. I got it hooked up now, so I can press the button on the remote, turn it on. But like, I don't know if you can tell, but this is like, how do I show this? It's pretty freaking bright, these little things. And like, I'm glad I'm testing these, because this one was this one with the little yellow stripe, but it's like a nice amber color, which is what I want for my dust light. But I'm gonna try the actual like orange ones, see how amber those are, but this is probably what I'll end up using. I'm trying to figure out how to mount everything though. I wanna put it right above the radiator fans. Yeah, it's not soldered to the board, that's why it's flickering. But I bought a bunch of like scrap plastic to try, but I'm also thinking like there's some nice logos on here on the runners, so I might try to use that, but like I just really can't think of how I'm gonna be able to mount anything without just using like super glue. I really don't want to glue it down because then I'll never be able to remove it. I might just do the light bar for now and then figure out the third brake light later. Or not third brake light, but you know what I mean. Pretty freaking cool though. I just can't get over how tiny that is. And of course my hands, yeah, look at how sweaty my hands are. This is like, oh my God. Here we are at the final stage of the build. So I got all the lighting wired up, got the electronics, I think pretty much as tucked as I will get them. They're not visible kind of at eye level on the truck. I haven't like covered them per se, but I got them mounted pretty low. The light bar lighting ended up looking like more roll cage from the shrink tubing I put on, and it's not really realistic, but that's kind of a happy little accident. I'm cool with that. Ended up right in the center. The last thing I have to do is an upgrade I initially did not want to do. It's the alloy shocks. I thought they were just kind of a useless dress up part, but I'm not happy with the way the suspension feels right now with the stock shocks. And these actually have like a little bit of damping to them. It's kind of hard to tell. They're a little sticky. It's not perfect, but the plastic shocks that come in the kit have no damping. So it feels decent, just kind of sitting here. It's like nice and level ride height. I'm running the preload spacers in the front, nothing in the rear. It looks good until you do just some very short drops. Like that is just way too bouncy. Like not even really picking it up, and it just bounces. If you go front to rear landing, it's not too bad, but I'm just not happy with it. I wanted this thing to be a mini UDR, and that's nowhere near the UDR. So I'm gonna throw these in, and we'll see what kind of improvement we get out of it. I don't expect it to be perfect, but it should be better. So we'll see in a bit. All right, I think I got it figured out. So I took the weight rings out of the rear, decreased the rear preload, added a little tiny bit of front preload. But it is sitting nice right now. Like, look at this, just like sink right in, and that, yeah, that slow rebound. I still don't love how the front feels. It doesn't feel like it's as well damped as the rear, but it's sitting at a good ride height, and I feel like that's a pretty nice drop. It still gets that little bit of bounce, but it settles real nice. Yeah, for a micro, I would say that's not too bad. Yeah, I didn't mention it before, but the way these are damped, there's not an O-ring in the shock. It's actually ball bearings. So there's a little groove in the piston head, and there's a bunch of absolutely microscopic ball bearings in both of the shocks. And there's kind of like a sticky grease that's holding them in there. So those ball bearings are what's rolling up and down in the shock body. I have no clue how that makes more sense than an O-ring, but that's what they decided to do. And I would say, all things considered, it works pretty good. I'd say I'm happy with that, at least for now. All right, so we are totally done with the Orlandoo Hunter build. And I just wanted to give you guys my final thoughts, recommendations, tips and tricks, things like that. If you're looking for a complete build video, there's already several good ones on YouTube. There's even an official Orlandoo Hunter upload for a build video. So I won't be, covering the build, just like roadblocks I hit and how I overcame them. As far as some basic information goes, if you're interested in building one of these, there's the model number. If it sounds like gibberish, it stands for Orlandoo Hunter 1/32 scale. X is the series. It's this X roll cage. And then 02 is the model number. The trophy truck is the second model in the series. Model 01 is their rock bouncer. I ordered everything off of A-Main Hobbies and Nitro Hobbies. Nitro Hobbies is a smaller retailer based in New Jersey, but they carry all of the Orlandoo Hunter stuff. Same with A-Main. I was just using Nitro Hobbies because they have a $5 flat shipping fee. So there were a few times when I forgot something that was just like a couple bucks. So it was nice to be able to order that and just pay $5 for shipping. And their shipping was really fast too, faster than A-Main in most cases. So you can look up parts on there. They usually have them under the kit name for what works with it. But if you want a complete list of all the different option parts available, tiny4x4.com is where you're going to want to go. They are a company based in Switzerland or Sweden, I think. And the product page that they have uploaded for this kit, at the bottom of that product page, it has a list of the part numbers for every single optional part for this kit. So that is the list I was referencing to make sure I was ordering the correct parts, and it's what gave me the idea in the first place to order some of these options. They even give you some tips on setup and tuning and things like that. So definitely check out tiny4x4.com if you're interested in doing some research. I didn't end up ordering anything from them though, just because they're international and I'm impatient, but I would definitely recommend patronizing them if you can. Definitely don't order anything off AliExpress. There's just really no point. The prices aren't any cheaper, and you're just risking long shipping times, expensive shipping, all that. Just get it all from A-Main or Nitro Hobbies if you're in the US. Oh, and the official Orlandoo website, Orlandoo, there we go, oh-model.com. That's their official website. That was helpful for certain things like building the servo saver. It was totally necessary for that because there are no instructions for building the servo saver online, at least that I could find. So the Orlandoo Hunter website has some photos of how you're supposed to assemble that. So I would definitely recommend browsing there too. It's all in Chinese though, so you'll need to translate it which is pretty easy on Chrome. So I would recommend using Chrome for that. But yeah, that is it for the websites I would recommend. Now I just want to talk about the tools you will need, because that was kind of a tough point for me. Everybody will say that the included tools are terrible, but they are far beyond terrible. I would say they are completely unusable. It's not an option. Like, you have to buy better drivers. This Phillips driver that they give you is just, I think I tried to use it on 3 screws. It stripped all 3 of them. The Allen key that they give you, I stripped the very first screw that I tried to tighten with it. But you do actually need to use this Allen key for one thing. There's a little ball stud at the bottom of the knuckle. This one here, where you need to reach through the top hole of the knuckle to tighten that. And you won't be able to do that with a nicer driver because it's too thick. So hang on to the Allen key just for these 2 ball joints, but you could pretty much throw out the Phillips driver as soon as you get it. The hex driver that they give you for the wheels, this actually works pretty good. I like it. It's what I use to take my wheels off and on. It does work with the dress up lug nuts too, or wheel nuts, whatever you want to call them. I got these kind of conical shaped dress up ones, and the socket will still fit on there. You could strip it out, so just be careful, but this will work with these nuts. The drivers that you will want to get are these. Actually, you really only need 2 of them. It's this Vera brand, German. It's my first time buying any tools from them, but I had heard that they were really high quality, and I would definitely agree after using these. So the hex driver you will need to get is a 0.9 millimeter, not a 1 millimeter, a 0.9. And the Phillips you will need is a double-aught. There were some people online saying that you needed a triple-aught. Maybe that's the case for other Orlandoo kits. It was not the case for this one. All of the Phillips screws are double-aught. So you could skip that and just get these 2, and you'll be able to put the whole kit together. Something really nice about these is the tip is magnetic right out of the box. I don't know if they were supposed to be like that or if I just got lucky, but having a magnetic tip is also not an option. You need a magnetic driver. So if you end up buying something or already have something that's not magnetic, you're gonna need to figure out a way to magnetize it. You could get just a high-powered magnet and rub it on the driver tip. That will magnetize it, or they even sell dedicated like magnetizer, demagnetizers you can use. I was actually able, as a test, I tried magnetizing the stock driver with just a powerful magnet, and it worked. So you can definitely, if you already have like a rare earth magnet, you would be able to magnetize a driver. But these screws are just so tiny that if they don't magnetize to the tip of this, you would need to use like a pair of tweezers to hold it in one hand while you screw it in with the other. It would just be awful. So make sure what you get is magnetized. I was able to get these on Amazon. I think they were like $5 to $8 a piece, so really pretty cheap. And they held up really well. I still did struggle with stripping some of the Phillips hardware, but you know, I was able to get everything together all right. This Allen key was great though. You get tons of bite, and I didn't have any problems with the Allen hardware. Let's see, so another thing that's helpful, I would say it's kind of necessary too, would be a pin vise or a small hand drill. I mean, I don't know why my camera's having so much trouble focusing, but it's basically, it's got a tiny little collet in the tip of it, and you can just turn this to tighten it. But this was helpful for assembling all of the turnbuckles as well as drilling out some of the holes. So the hardware here is an M1, so the tap drill size that you would want would be a 0.7 millimeter. I did not have that. I just had a 1 millimeter drill bit. So I ended up just chucking the 1 millimeter drill bit into the pin vise, and then I would use that to drill out some of the holes on the kit that weren't fully formed. If you are using a 1 millimeter drill bit, you just have to be really careful that you don't tap or you don't drill all the way through the hole. Otherwise the threads of the screw will have nothing to bite on. I would use it to just kind of open it up, almost like counterbore the start of the hole, and then the screw could kind of do the rest. The holes that were the most problematic were everything on the roll cage. The roll cage is 3D printed, so the holes are not very precise. On the injection molded parts, like the control arms, the pan and everything, those holes were all really good, like the axle and everything. I didn't have to tap any of those, just mainly the roll cage. So yeah, get a pin vise. This is actually an Orlandoo one, but I think like Tamiya and other model makers sell them. But this was only a couple bucks, got it on Nitro Hobbies. And then a 0.7 millimeter drill bit. 1 millimeter will work if that's all you got. Oh yeah, so let me go to this. Here is another necessary tool, some flush cuts, side cutters, nippers, whatever you want to call them. All the plastic parts come on part trees, so you will need to cut them out. And the metal panels, like that there, the parts for the radiator fan, those need to be cut out as well. So what I ended up doing was I have my nice Tamiya nippers I used for all the plastic parts, and then I use these cheaper ones for the steel parts because I don't really care about damaging these. You could get away with just one pair of nippers though. Let's see, also tweezers. You will absolutely need tweezers. These are pretty crappy and I've already like bent them up, but they get the job done. When I am out driving the car, I always bring these tweezers with me because it's just everything here is so tiny that like if you pop a turnbuckle off, you're not gonna be able to stick your fat fingers in there and pop it back on. You'll need to use tweezers, so you will absolutely need tweezers. Some pliers, some small pliers are very useful as well. Hopefully you have something better than these. I just got my little Swiss Army knife. Some really precise needle nose pliers would be best. These are also really necessary for assembling the turnbuckles too. Then also some things like a file, a little hand file for helping some of the parts to fit, and a little hand saw. I ended up using this to correct the cage fitment issue. Oh yeah, there's more. Yeah, so you need, if you haven't figured it out, you need a lot to build this. Cement. This is the Tamiya extra thin cement, but any type of modeling cement would work. I think Tamiya makes a non-extra thin version, but you will need that for all of the plastic parts, the gas can, the fire extinguishers, the dashboard. Those all need to be glued together. You could use super glue for that. But I don't like using super glue if I don't have to. This cement is basically like an acetone solution. So you just paint this onto the plastic and it'll melt the plastic and fuse it together. It sets really fast and it's not sticky, so you don't have to worry about getting super glue everywhere. You can just kind of slather the cement onto the seams of the parts and it'll set up really strong and really fast. So recommend grabbing some cement. but you will still need super glue. One for the tires, you'll need to glue the tires, and two for the etched metal parts, mainly on the radiator fan. So because it's metal on plastic, the cement won't work, so you'll need to use super glue to glue those metal parts onto the plastic housing of the radiator. Let's see if I'm forgetting anything. I think that's everything for tools. Let me talk about some of the roadblocks that I had. So probably the main one, it's something that a lot of people have talked about, is the fitment of this chassis belly pan. It seems like pretty much all these kits, the rear tabs won't line up. I've seen some people, pursue different ways of fixing it. I feel like I came up with the best option. People will try to elongate the holes on the pan or extend the bracket on the cage and drill new holes and things like that. But if you really look at what's happening with the kit, the belly pan's injection molded, so it's going to be pretty dimensionally accurate and repeatable. So I assume that the belly pan is the correct dimension. When you look at the roll cage, that's 3D printed, so that's going to have a lot of variation print to print. And in particular, the joints near these tabs, and hopefully I can get this phone to focus. Yeah, there we go. The joint near these tabs right out of the box already looks kind of like melted and fused together. So I don't know if it's some kind of secondary thing they had to do with the print, but the reason why it doesn't fit is this center bar is too long. It's pushing out the sides of the cage, and you can see when you're fitting it up that this side of the cage comes out too far. So what I ended up doing to get that belly pan to fit is I got my little handsaw blade. This one, I measured it with the caliper. I think it was like 0.6 millimeters thick, 0.7 maybe, so less than a millimeter. I took the handsaw, I lined it up right on the edge of the bracket, and I sawed through the cage on both sides. And because it's a saw, it's, removing material. So when I was done sawing, there's now a gap on either side of the cage. When you squeeze the cage together and close that gap, now the side lines up and the holes line up. So I was able to drop in the two screws, tighten them down, and then just use some super glue to fuse the cage back together in there. So now I've got perfect fitment of everything. I didn't need to blow out any holes or make some sketchy brackets or anything, and it's all super rigid now. Fits together really well. There's no major gaps on the sides or anything. So if you find that your model has that fitment issue, I would grab a small handsaw, make 2 cuts, and glue it back together. The other major fitment problem I had was with this metal drive shaft coupler. One of the diameters was off. It was either the motor output or the shaft or the coupler. But what I ended up doing was I super glued a little bit of sandpaper to a toothpick and then sanded out the inside of that coupler. It didn't take very much, but that was enough to get that coupler to slide on nicely and tighten it down with the set screw. I think that was all of my major problems, for the most part, everything fits together pretty well. You just need to be very patient with everything. And yeah, take your time. Your experience might be different than mine, but it seems like pretty much everybody has problems getting that cage to fit. Let's see. Let's talk about the optional upgrades that I did. So the light bar was one of the things that I added. It does bolt right up to the cage. Actually, let me pop this body off here so we can get a better look at everything while I'm talking. If you didn't figure it out, the body's got these little pins and rubber grommets. I really like it as a fastening system. It's a lot easier than tiny little cotter pins, and looks cleaner, and I haven't had any issues with the body popping off. But yeah, so the light bar fits right onto the cage. I didn't have to modify anything there. I did, however, have to cut some notches. You can kind of see in the A-pillar. Cut some notches in the body so that the body can slide on over the brackets, but that really wasn't a big deal. Definitely feel like the light bar is a worthwhile upgrade because the one they give you in the kit, it's just a black plastic bar, so it doesn't really give you much realism. And yeah, the light bar, you can control it with the controller, and you know, you would have to wire it up to the board, but you know, that wasn't too terrible. It looked pretty daunting, but wasn't too bad. Other upgrades, the one that you will, if you're going to do any upgrades, you will absolutely need to do the servo saver. So kind of tucked away in there, but I have not had any problems with the stock servo, but that's probably because I immediately put in the servo saver. The servo horn they give you is just plastic, and people say that if you're using that servo horn, you're gonna blow up a servo pretty much every time you drive the car. With the saver, I've actually had some pretty gnarly hits, enough to pop the spring out of location and lose steering, but it saved the servo, so that's all I cared about. I just had to use tweezers to pop the spring back on, and we were good to go. So I would definitely recommend getting that servo saver. Now, another major upgrade would be the aluminum shocks. I initially did not purchase these because I thought they were kind of a frivolous dress-up accessory. The stock shocks are just plastic, but they still have, you know, metal bodies. They're fine. They're super, super bouncy. And I wanted this thing to just be very plush and smooth. So these aluminum ones are not just dress up. They actually have little tiny ball bearings in the piston heads, and that with some grease on them, the grease is already applied from the factory, gives it damping. So maybe still a little bouncy, but it is a huge difference from the plastic shocks. So if you're chasing super smooth suspension and realism, I would recommend getting those as well. One thing I would recommend not getting is the steel drive shaft. They sell a couple different ones. There's like a really thin one and a beefier stainless steel one. I just think it's not worth it. It's more rotational mass. It's going to put more stress on your motor. Some people say they break drive shafts on these. I haven't had any problems, but I'm not running outdoors. And is a nice little bonus because the part tree for the drive shaft is from their four-wheel drive models. You get a spare drive shaft right in the box. So if you do manage to break a drive shaft, you already have a spare, so you can throw that spare in and then order the steel one if you think it's necessary. So I would say skip it initially. One kind of other optional thing I added was the rear differential. I don't think you totally need it, but I run on hardwood a lot, and this thing has a lot of oversteer, so I was just trying to tame that rear end. It does feel like it worked. The car does drive better with it, but if you were mainly running this like outdoors, like in dirt, the spool would probably be better. The spool that comes with it, nice steel axle with the brass ring and pinion gear. The differential is all steel. Oh yeah, so one thing that people hadn't really talked about is the photo etched metal parts that come with the kit are all black, but you can buy them in uncoated silver. So I bought that silver one so I could use it for the radiator fans and the front bumper. So if you want a little bit more bling, that's a good option. And then the steel weight rings. So most people recommend adding a lot of rear weight to this to help settle the ride height and improve the handling. If you're on the plastic shocks, you definitely need weight in the rear. This thing would just be sitting like, full droop at ride height. With the aluminum shocks, you have a lot better ride height tuning, so it's just not necessary. I don't have any weight in the rear right now, and I really like how it behaves. But these are a good tuning option to have. You just throw these in the spare tires, and that will help settle the rear end. It did feel like it improved the rear grip. It wouldn't spin out as much with the weight rings in it, but I still took them out just because I didn't like how heavy it made the rear end. Some people even recommend putting tungsten putty in the gas can. I would say hold off on that just because you need to glue the gas can halves together. So once you put that putty in there, you're not getting it out unless you got a second gas can. I would just say go for the weight rings. I think they're only like $3 because you don't need to glue the tires on the spares. So you can just put these in and take them out and do whatever tuning you want to do with them. Yeah, let's see. Did I get anything else? I think that was all I did for upgrades. I already mentioned the lug nuts. That's just totally optional, but I do like them. Yeah, let's talk about the electronics package. So I went with the standard Orlandoo electronics for everything. Got the D4L controller. That came with the speaker, the lights, the ESC, but you need to order the servo, the motor, and the battery separately. I went with the standard 2.2 gram servo, the 3000 RPM motor, and the 260 milliamp hour battery. I don't know if you can quite see that in there. Oh yeah, and then the charger. They sell a wall charger and a USB charger. I could be wrong, but I remembered seeing that the wall charger had a Euro plug on it. So if you're in the US, don't get the wall charger. The USB charger is really nice. This charges the battery in only like 10 or 15 minutes, like really fast. It's got the indicator light on it, so it'll blink while it's charging and stop blinking when it's done. And yeah, charges really fast. I get great runtime out of the battery. I don't even think I've ever run the battery dead. Yeah, great runtime, charges really fast. Highly recommend. But yeah, as far as how I wired everything up, I got the ESC over here. One thing that I do is I leave the battery plugged into the ESC. We'll see if I come to regret that, but it is just so difficult to pull these connectors out of the ESC. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to leave it plugged in because you charge the battery off the balance lead anyway, and there's a switch to turn it off and on. So I just leave it plugged in, charge the battery right on that plug. This is way easier to connect and disconnect from the charger. And yeah, I haven't had any issues so far, but we'll see in the long term if I end up regretting that. But the batteries are like $8, $5, something like that. So if I end up ruining the battery, then whatever. It's worth it to not have to unplug it. Yeah, so continuing on the layout, I got my power switch back here. It's just kind of floating around right now. I might try to tape it down, but I did use double-sided tape on the rest of it. So I got the light board and the speaker on that side. Just have all the wires running under the dashboard. It was a big pain to get all this wired up. And then I've got the light bar, and I did a little trail light too. It's just one of the little SMDs that came with the kit. I just wired it up, and I actually just super glued it to the cage. I was trying to come up with a more clever way to mount it, but just wasn't really able to do anything. The super glue works fine. And then yeah, the wires for that just kind of ended up looking like more roll cage, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, I was able to get everything tucked pretty well. I got the little antenna running kind of up off the back of the receiver, up the cage. Don't have any reception issues or anything. Yeah, that's I think it for the electronics. Oh yeah, there was one other thing. I struggled figuring out how to use these stickers. I actually thought I had a defective set, and I ordered another sheet thinking that, you know, I had a bad one, and then that sheet came and that sheet was bad too. And I'm like, there's got to be more to this. So what is going on here is there's a transfer film over this entire sheet. So the stickers are die cut. So they're already cut around the printing, but they have a transfer film, a continuous sheet of transfer film over top of them. So if you go to just try to pull off the sticker, you're not going to be able to. What you'll need to do is you'll need to, kind of like what I was doing here, cut it out, and then you can, you know, more safely peel this transfer film back, and that sticker will come with it. And then you could either use the transfer film to apply it directly to the part and then peel the transfer film off, or what I was doing was just peeling the sticker off the transfer film and putting the sticker on directly. So if you were like me and think you got a bad sheet of stickers, you didn't just pull that transfer film off. Yeah, I think, all right, 32 minutes in, that's probably enough rambling. I think I covered everything I needed to cover. Overall, I would say I'm very pleased with it. It's pretty expensive for what it is, but there's really nothing else on the market like it. It is a mini UDR, and if that's what you want, this is what you gotta get. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who has no modeling experience. You know, if you're ambitious and patient, go for it. But if you have some basic modeling experience, like if you've built model cars before and things like that, you won't really struggle too much. You just gotta be patient. If you're worried about losing hardware, they do give you spares for pretty much everything. No real spare parts though, but parts are cheap if you break them and you need to order something else. I really didn't have any permanent issues with it. I think the only thing was I split one of the sway bar links when I was tightening the ball stud into it, but that's been holding together. So yeah, overall I really like it. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and certainly happy that I built it. But I would not be eager to do it again. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the little videos, and hopefully my explanation here helps you build one. If you're interested, Feel free to leave any comments and questions. I'll be going back to check to see if anybody else needs help. I would love to assist anybody who's interested in building one. But yeah, I'm sure you'll see some more driving videos of this thing soon. Peace.